Hey, I'm back. And once more, I forgot to unmute my mic because I'm a boomer moron. Now I'm back and hopefully you can hear me. My friend Fabian Liberty saw that I cut a Twitch ban and wanted to talk about that in my Whick debate. He's streaming now. So I'm going to hop on with him, is the plan. I can find his... Oh, he's got a... There we are. We'll see if we can get him going here. It was I got banned, audio banned. No. How's my bald head looking here? You could go to Kick to see it now. It will be uploaded to Rumble in the future. And then we're going to try to get that edited and have it put back up on. Rob, you did not serve a.k.a. Connor. Big brain take. Conor Point said some foul language. But I'll talk about it with Fabian. What's up, man?
Hey.
Well, are you allowed to talk to me? I'm a persona non grata, huh?
No. I just, sorry, I was just setting up my virtual cam. I just came back today. My grandmother had been, like having some issues in the hospital. Long story, it's fine. She's made a full recovery, but I was out for a while. And so I was trying to catch up on like drama and stuff. And people were like, "Hey, you got to watch this Whick panel with this, like this guy." So I just started, and then in my chat, people were like, "Hey, dude, he just got banned from his debate with Connor because Connor wouldn't stop screaming the F slur." Yeah. I'm like, "Okay, fuck this. I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about what happened on the Whick panel, and I just want to hear from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Let me see if he's like if he can talk.
I'm
let
still
me
here.
be like, yo, what the fuck happened to you these last couple days, brother?"
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's funny, I took the week off work so I could actually set up panels and shit like that. Normally I could only stream Wednesday, Thursday, maybe sometimes Friday. So it was nice. I was setting shit up. And then I was supposed to do the debate with Whick's panel and with Connor yesterday, and then both of those fell through. Then I ended up arguing with Tom Fullery and then Pisco until 4 a.m. And then this Connor shit got rescheduled to today. I'll start off by saying this with the Connor stuff. I don't blame him. I don't think it was intentional. I think it's probably stupid to just be screaming the F slur. But if I'm a little honest myself, I then repeated it to him. I think at the end, like I was like F word and then said it. And so my understanding from the Twitch emails I got was
my camera's up, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me get that. My understanding is I got a warning from a third party saying it, is what it said. And then I got a ban from it. So the warning and ban were both from the same video. So it's clearly it was that Connor kept saying it repeatedly. But I'm not that upset with him. I'm really not. Like, I know that sounds weird, but yeah. I feel like it was a heat of the moment thing. I don't think it was on purpose.
Well, I mean, like, apparently he got banned too.
Yes.
From what people were saying, right?
Yeah, so I'm not, I don't. People are saying they think it was intentional. I don't think it was.
Yeah, that's probably not intentional. It's just him fucking probably spurging out. But what was your
one sec.
debate on, and why did you get to the point where it got so damn heated that that's what was going on?
Well, so in general, what was going on this week was I'm so sick and tired of. I spent 8 years doing all these panels, and I know you've done it as well, right? You do all these panels, and you talk about government overreach, corruption, and all of that shit, and these people laugh it off. They ignore it. In the case of Connor, they take money from Progressive Victory PAC to fucking support that sort of shit. And then Trump puts a mean tweet out, and they lose their fucking minds, right? And all of a sudden it's, oh, but Trump quoted Napoleon. And oh my God. I didn't you know the quote I'm talking about, right? The Napoleon quote.
Yeah. I started watching the other one, which is that like no man breaks a law that saves his country.
Correct.
Et cetera,
right.
Something along those lines.
Right. Basically, just saying there's a higher power than the law. If you're doing something that's a virtuous good, it's beyond the law, right? And these people are all losing their collective minds over that. And I just was pointing this out on X. Was like, hey, fuck you, people, right? Like Connor, I'm glad to see now all of a sudden you're concerned about corruption, about this mean tweet. you were more than happy to take money to support this ideology.
Right.
You know.
Well, so like, yeah, like, so like if we look at the Trump situation, right, and we look at like the judge that stepped in against Doge, right? Mm-hmm. So what has Doge done so far? As everyone's lying about it, saying that they're firing people. They don't fire fucking anybody. They're literally just doing an audit.
Right.
That's the only power they have, is to do an audit and then report to the president. And so some judge comes in and says, well, you set up this thing that's completely unconstitutional. It's like, well, it's an Obama program that just got renamed.
Right.
So that's not true. And then the judge says that you can't fucking, your own Treasury Secretary can't have control of the Treasury Department until we investigate further, because he's actually not the one in charge of the Treasury, because some other guy is doing an audit. Like, it's an insane level of lawfare that is a perfect example of corruption in the government. Now, let's give the devil his due. I'm not a legal expert. You're not a legal expert.
Correct.
Neither of us are lawyers. So maybe it's totally unconstitutional, right? Maybe it is. But like, I think I agree with Trump in his tweet. I don't give a fuck about the goddamn Constitution if the Constitution is allowing a rogue judge to halt the government in doing an audit that finds billions, potentially trillions of dollars of fraud, waste, and abuse, and clearing that out, especially when that fraud, waste, and abuse is being used to topple democratically elected, regimes or, political parties in other countries. It's being used to stage a coup in Ukraine in 2014. It's being used to fucking support the Arab Spring. It's being used to buy off all these other, we have a perfect example of deep government corruption. It's like, but these are the same fucking people that'll be like, oh, well, smoking weed's not bad, so I don't care if you break the law. Like,
yeah,
where's the consistency here?
That's what the debate with Conor became. So there were two portions to the debate. The first portion was everyone wanted me to defend my stance, because I kept telling people, like, if someone could send me proof that they were worried about corruption under the Biden administration, Obama administration, whatever, or the lawfare against Trump, then I would talk to them.
And that was like a doctored tweet or something,
yeah,
right?
and then some guy sent me a doctored tweet. So the Whick panel we can talk about that later, but that's that. And Connor, it's a little different, because he'll say, yeah, I mentioned it in the passing, but he took money and he, blah, blah, blah. So the debate with Connor, the first part was just going over that. I don't think it was anything particularly interesting, but then we started to get into sort of the ins and outs of more of the specifics. And basically his argument, it's so ironic. He's so fucking dumb. He doesn't even understand that he's basically defending the sentiment of Trump's tweet. The ultimate sentiment of that tweet is, it doesn't matter if something's technically illegal or not. If it's for example, the easiest example that fucking, especially like a lefty like Connor would understand, is like, it was legal to own slaves. It was illegal to free slaves if they weren't your property. And yet if you freed them, you'd say, I don't give a fuck about your law, right? Like, I don't give a fuck that the law says. It's that simple, right? Now you might disagree with what Trump's saying, but you could say, I don't agree that Trump's saving the country. You could say that, but the spirit of what he's saying. So Connor's like big balls take was, it's a simple yes or no answer it. And I was like, well, you answer first. And he says, no, you're not above the law. And I was like, well, actually, it's very complicated. And I went through like all the rationale. I was like, first, there's a question of quite literally, is Trump above the law? Supreme Court says if he's taking official acts, basically. So just on the literal sense. Second, if you win, the law is just really who can enforce it. So if your side wins, then yes, you were above the law, right? Like,
well, it's like I'm an anarchist that believes in natural law philosophy. I have an argument that no man is above the law, and that if you're saving your country, it would require you following the law. That is natural law, being a non-aggressor. And like, we could have that debate, you and I. You know what I mean? We could do it now. We could do it later. We could do it some other time. We could never do it. It doesn't matter. I would think that you would recognize that from my stance, the law as it says that. But if you are a believer in the nation state as a system of laws, then you must bite the bullet that when laws change, right? Okay. So if the laws change, then which one was the right law? The law we have now or the law then? Like, if you're a believer in, like, so you're saying no man is above the law, and the law is this thing that we don't democratically decide, because we have a republic with a constitution and all these other things. And, so like, what, like, you must recognize that laws back then were bad. The laws we have now are better. But we also should recognize that if there were bad laws then there are bad laws now. And if what you're doing is morally virtuous or righteous, like then there's no difference here.
Right.
Like,
and
I have an argument because I believe in an objective law that doesn't change. He believes in a law that changes.
And so I didn't bring up natural law. What I said was, like, it would be like if you're Christian and you believe that the highest law is the law of God, correct? And so that law, you would say, well, you can't be above it no matter what. But other than that, if you believe that our laws are fallible, then yes, clearly the spirit of what that's saying is true. Now, we obviously could disagree on whether or not someone is saving the country. For example, if Biden said, yes, I agree with this quote, and that's why I'm going to order the assassination of Trump, I wouldn't say, well, yes, there's higher priorities than the law. But the criticism the criticism that Conor has is basically, this guy's saying that you could be above the law if you're doing something morally virtuous, and clearly that's incorrect. It took me all of 30 seconds to prove that was bullshit. So then he changes his argument. His argument is, but technically it would still be against the law today. So the answer is still no. And I'm like, who gives a shit about the semantics? Right? You understand the spirit of what Napoleon was saying was like, there is bad shit going on with the government of France right now, so I will lead a revolution against it. I don't give a fuck if they call it illegal. And he just keeps going back to the semantics. It's like, you dumb shit. It would still be, you have the IQ of just fucking classic bullshit, and I'm trying, and he's like,
dude, Conor, can we just be honest? Okay. Cause I'm this type of person that, I am not a successful streamer. All right. I've reached some level. I mean, it depends on how you define success.
Right.
If you compare me to the average person, obviously I'm successful. If you compare me to all the streamers, I'm not. Right. Part of that's because I chose to be an ANCAP libertarian. Right. Which is, I chose to stick to my. Well, I chose to fucking stick to my principles and not grift and be like just a typical right winger or a typical lefty. If I was a typical lefty, I'd get USAID money and, DNC money. If I was a typical right winger, I'd have a larger audience at least. Right. But another reason I've had trouble with success is I'm real bad at networking because I don't mind burning bridges. So let's go ahead and burn a bridge here real quick. Conor has gone completely off of the fucking deep end in these last year and a half. Like when Conor first hit the scene, I could have a reasonable conversation. I mean, we had a debate. Remember we had that policing debate on the Crucible where me and another anarchist were debating against you and Conor, and you guys were perfectly fine together. And yeah, he spurged out a little bit as an entertainment thing, but then we were able to have a rational conversation at the end that and come to conclusion, especially in the Q&A portion. Conor's not capable of that anymore. I don't know if it's the progressive victory thing being exposed. So other right wing people just aren't willing to take his shit and he feels a vitriolic need to get back or defend himself. I don't know if it's because he's just got TDS and EDS, I don't know what's going on there, but he's clearly not right. And I think the fact that he's screaming F slurs, he's so fucking mad that he gets his own channel taken down and gets someone else's channel taken down is really showcasing that dude, you need to take a break and you need to take a step away and fucking deal with your family and just make 40K videos for a while, get the fuck out of politics and maybe come back with your head on right.
Now, I'll admit I'm going a little hard on him at X, but I think that's all above board. I go hard on you and it doesn't matter. We're men, fucking handle it, no big deal. But he's calling me a D sucker and this, that, and the other. I gotta be careful with what I say. I don't want to get anyone else banned. He's going off with all that shit. And then it was crazy.
I'm only on YouTube.
Oh, there we go. And crazily enough, his wife jumped in and was like, "Why are you gargling Trump's balls?" And started giving me the business, making fun of the size of my genitalia. I don't mind. I take it in stride. I'm like, "You sure you want to do this?" I'm not one to bring people's spouses into it, but if you're gonna jump in with both feet. So it feels like a little spiraling. Well, I didn't. That's the direction I took.
His wife got involved. That's wild, man.
Yeah. So it was kind of funny, but no hard feelings. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, man, if I'm gonna get that edited and I'm gonna get it back on YouTube, I don't know what to say other than particularly. I thought about you and Casimir as in the middle of that debate. I was like, listen to what this fucking guy's saying. Casimir and Fabian are gonna lose their fucking mind because he's basically defending USAID. and he's defending. I'm making comments like, and I'm just like off the cuff. I don't have the research in front of me or anything, but I've been watching a lot of Mike Benz and sort of what he's pointing out that's going on at USAID. One of the things he pointed out that I thought was fucking insane is basically the National Endowment for Democracy, which our tax dollars pay for, is going to the government of Poland, and they're like, hey, now that sort of the establishment side won, you need to have, quote, transitional justice, which means locking up the populist party that was in power before you. And they're like, one of the they give a bunch of reasons why they need
transitional justice, right? Like, which is like transitioning from one administration to the other,
right?
Is where the transitional comes from, not the way commies usually use it,
right? So Mike Benz says the reason they do this, and I believe this, he's like, because it's expensive to sort of have a color revolution, so you have to keep funding that to keep winning elections, unless you lock up the opposition. So that's constantly a strategy they're going with. And so one of the things they said that I thought was remarkable in Poland, examples of crimes that needed to be locked up. I shit you not. This is in the National Endowment of Democracy. It says people that in 2020 pushed for mail-in voting.
COVID.
To ensure.
Push for mail-in voting during COVID was something that needs to be locked up as a form of political corruption because it weakens the democracy. And it's like, this is the exact opposite argument you use on the American people.
Right.
Right, so, is that we were arguing this, and you were saying, no, we need more mail-in ballots to ensure that, to ensure that we have a safe and secure election.
Yeah, so I bring this up to Connor. He's literally like, he goes to Wikipedia and reads like 4 sentences, and he's like, oh, this says that previous party was corrupt. And I'm like, that's it. So you just accept that. And basically,
it's like him with like Victor Shokin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, the previous guy was corrupt.
Right.
So,
and so
we got rid of him.
I basically get him to admit, he's like, yeah, I'm for our government taking tax dollars to interfere in countries' democracies as long as it promotes the parties I think are good. And I think populism's bad and needs to be stamped out because it could lead to people like Trump that will be authoritarians. That's his argument.
Yeah,
and
so, so I had a really long conversation about USAID with oh God, what's his name? Let me look at my DMs real quick because it's near the top. Noah on Midwestern Marks.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I had a long conversation about him about it because the libertarians and the communists are the only ones that have like been paying attention to USAID until like recently. No offense to like typical conservatives or you or anybody. I just mean that like we've been screaming about this for like 20 years and being like the CIA does this shit, and everyone's been like, you're crazy. And now that like Trump and Elon have gone in, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I guess you guys were right. It's like, yes, we were fucking right about USAID this entire goddamn time. But right, like I had a conversation. Like the craziest thing to me about USAID that is that I could point to, right, is in 2021, Mark Milley, under the Biden administration, obviously, right, who is chairman of the Joint Chief, and put out a document from U.S. Special Forces Command Airborne, like 2021 plan, right, and in it they created a hypothetical. Okay, I'm using big fucking quotes when I talk about hypothetical, and what they talked about was how, in this hypothetical scenario, an intelligence officer sees a billboard in Chinese in a West African country. Okay. And then what he does is he goes, okay, well, there's this project that's being built, this real estate project. And in it, China's going to build a port, which is going to give them West African, naval access. So what we need to do is we need to use USAID money to have a job fair that will give temporary jobs to the people that will deplete the Chinese from having the jobs necessary to complete this project. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use NGOs that are connected and funded by USAID and other, state apparatus of like the State Department and, National Endowment for Democracy, Foreign Relations Council, all these fucking CIA fronts, because that's all they are, CIA fronts.
Right.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to inflame racial tensions and cause a race riot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to destabilize the country via race riots and try and have the Chinese driven out with race riots that we cause, funded by the American taxpaying dollars. And like, that's how we ought to be using USAID. And that's kind of some of the things we do, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it's like, you can't like the idea that like conservative fucking America first people, big fucking air quotes when talking about Connor in this regard, are defending these programs and defending it because some judge said that we're not allowed to audit this shit, is absolute proof of one of three things. Either one, you are too fucking stupid for an adult conversation about politics. Two, you're a lying, grifting sack of shit that says whatever you think gets you current views and attention, etc. Or three, you are so ideologically captured in your own bullshit that like you can't see the forest through the trees. And you might be a smart person, but you're just like you have Trump derangement syndrome, and you are too busy in your debate bro mindset to like win a debate on like technicalities and things that like you just can't see the great picture, which, to be fair, I would say three is probably just a mixture of one and two.
Correct. And I think that's absolutely what I think is going on with Conor. I mean, he's so delusional about this. He literally tells me, because we're talking, the conversation starts off and we're talking because he's basically conceded the FISA warrants were used to illegally spy on Trump. He concedes at this point that the FBI was instructed to protect the Biden family, that even though he gave them a partial pass when they arrested Hunter, finally, he now understands that they only did so because there was going to be the promise of a pardon, so it was all corrupt. And I was like, well, how could you take money if you're concerned about corruption? And he's like, because not charging Eric Adams is more corrupt than all of that. What? Yes, because Trump's DOJ, they were trying to prosecute Eric Adams, and Trump's DOJ coming in and saying, no, this is a political prosecution. You can't do that. And I was like, and it's just one of the things, and this is, you're smart enough to get this. People don't understand this. Sometimes when you're debating, the truth doesn't matter. Let me explain. If I make something up to you, and I say, hey, Fabian, do you know that Trump just personally stabbed President Xi? Now, that might be total bullshit, but if you start going, good, that's exactly what would have happened, I could say, like, wow, that's really fucked up. You don't then get to later say, none of that counts because
that'd be based as fuck if Trump took it into his own hands and fucking just fucking Xi Jinping there at a fucking Japanese koi pond restaurant and fucking decided he was gonna fucking kill Bill fucking President Xi Jinping and walk away fucking wiping blood off with a cloth like this is how we get things done.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the greatest stabbing ever. Yeah. Like that'd be fucking based as fuck. But anyways, exactly. You got me to admit that, which elucidates how I feel about the situation, regardless of whether or not that action occurred. It elucidates my philosophy and feelings about that situation. Now,
you shouldn't do it unethically, right? But of course, you shouldn't do it unethically. But let's say I say something, right? Like, let's say I say something that I'm like, actually, GDP went down 4% under Biden, and Conor would say that's good. Having a low GDP is good, right? And then later we find out, like, actually, no, that's not true. GDP went up. I didn't lie intentionally, but what matters is, wow, that's still fucking really dumb, Conor, that you think a lower GDP. So in the context of this debate, I don't think anything I said was inaccurate, but what Conor is going to try to do later, if called out in some of this shit's go, well, that's not the case. The admissions that Conor makes is fucking staggering, right? So like he admits like, yep, the FBI from top to bottom is fucking corrupt. Yep, I believe it. But I think pardoning Eric Adams is worse. Or not charging Eric Adams. And I'm like, but Conor, if you are admitting that the prior administration's FBI was corrupt and the Southern District of New York goes after Eric Adams only after he criticizes Biden, you can't see how there's an appearance of conflict. Now, it doesn't matter, Trump's worse. Or he makes other claims like this. He says, Trump's killed 2 million people already. How? Well, because he stopped USAID sending AIDS drugs to Africa. What? Like already? Or he says he's trying to get me at the end of the debate.
He didn't say that, did he?
Yes, he did. He's trying to get me at the end.
He said that 2 million people have died because they haven't died or
already.
Monthly.
It's a death sentence for them already because these drugs have been prevented. Yeah, that's what he said. The body counts. And then he says, like, listen to this. It gets even crazier. He admits that there was a color revolution in 2014 because I'm like, dude, the exact foreign policy that you're recommending, because he keeps shouting about Ukraine. I'm like, that's what led to the situation in Ukraine. That's what leads to the war starting because we're fucking interfering in countries like Ukraine and countries like Russia don't want to be encircled. So they go in and now we have this war as a result of that. I was like, so when you say that it was okay to take money from the corrupt side going after Trump because Trump would be worse for Ukraine, actually those bodies are on your hand. And he goes, yeah, but it was worth it. And I'm like, how so? And then he admits he had this post that sort of gets to the end of the debate, right, where I'm making this argument of like, well, there's a higher calling than just the law. And I'm like, Conor, I know you believe this because you tweeted out in defense of Vaush's lolicon. Lolicon bad, but canvassing more important. And so that's why he continued to canvass with Vaush, because even though lolicon's bad, stopping Trump was more important. And I was like, he goes, yes, because I knew he would lead to people dying in Ukraine. I was like, but Conor, you already admitted that your ideology led to those people dying. So now you're making excuses for why you're basically defending lolicon. And then like the last thing he says that's like an admission is he's trying to get me to be like, you voted for Trump who did the worst sexual crime possible to Carroll. And I was like, I don't believe that it occurred. And he goes, I said, but what about you? You voted for Biden, which accused of doing the same thing to Tara Reade. And he says, yeah, I believe it. That's okay. And I'm like, you're not, it'd be one thing.
Hold on. So hold on. Conor says that so there's this wonderful book by Saul Alinsky called Rules for Radicals. Right. One of the rules in Rules for Radicals is to make your opponent, right, follow their own rules. Right, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, sure. Right, but it's like to use your opponent's rules against them, correct, even if you don't care about them yourself, right? So he's engaging in in like what is revolutionary leftist argumentation, which is I'm going to hold you to the standard that you not vote for a rapist, but I don't care if I vote correct for a rapist because I'm a consequentialist at the end of the day. I don't supposedly he's a Christian. I don't know where that went, but nevertheless, also comparing. Look. I don't know if Biden raped that girl. I don't know. Like I'm far more confident that he fucking molested his daughter than I am that he raped Tara Reade. Yeah. Mostly because we have documentation from her diary that of like problematic behavior from him in the shower before there's like an election or anything like that going on, right? That's from the horse's mouth of someone that would obviously be biased towards her own father in that regard, that she didn't think would become public, but became public. Right. So that to me is a testimonial that's worth a lot more. Correct. Because you have like situations in the diary. It's
contemporaneous. She didn't know it would be exposed. Absolutely. Yep.
Right. She didn't know, like to me, that's much stronger position. But with the E. Carroll thing, when people bring up Eugene Carroll, like just as a quick reminder to anybody that gets sucked up in the 24-hour news and streamer cycle, this bitch wrote a book where she claimed to have been raped 13 times in her life and went to a bonfire with a guy, like keeps claiming. She claims that she was hanging out with Epstein and had to change her timeline because the building that Trump that Epstein owned, he didn't fucking own at the time. So she had to change her timeline.
She was wearing a
her
dress.
Own people
that
said that
exist.
She was lying about it. Right. And then she went on fucking CNN and talked about how rape is sexy and how we all love rape. Two fucking what's the white-haired Anderson Cooper, right? CIA. And then he had to literally cut to fucking commercial because it was so fucking awkward what she was saying, so her handlers could come in and try and fix the situation a little bit. Like, and then he didn't even bother showing up to court because it was a foregone conclusion. The idea that and then he was not convicted of rape. He was given a civil lawsuit on a balance of probabilities towards sexual assault, not rape. And then the judge who came out and was like, well, since it was, I say it's rape because, yeah, it was.
Colloquially, right.
Just out of his ass, out of nowhere, right? Like that entire thing is so patently absurd that it's like, it's worse than what happened to like Aziz Ansari during the Me Too movement. Like it's just completely concocted bullshit. And the idea that people still utilize this as a cudgel is like, dude, I fucking hate Trump. There's so much shit to talk about Trump. Like we can talk, as a libertarian, let's talk shit about the guy saying he's going to shrink government and then creating a whole fucking new IRS called the ERS and tariffs and like there's a lot of shit we can talk shit on Trump about. Like it's not that fucking hard to do, but it's because he's not appealing to conservatives. He's appealing to lefties and leftists that want to hear a fucking a conservative opinion that agrees with 90% of what they believe. His audience isn't conservative. He doesn't want conservatives in his audience. What he wants is to be a palatable conservative for right-winger, for the left, so that they can say that he's one of the good ones
Exactly.
And so that they can then label the rest of you as far right or as right-wing extremists for having regular conservative opinions, because we have a conservative over here and 90% of what he says is reasonable and we totally get and believe, when really he's fucking a neoliberal Democrat.
Right. Go back to the E. John Carroll thing for a second. So Conor's proof that Trump did it, this is shocking, is the Access Hollywood tape. Trump said grab him by the pee to Billy Bush, right? When he was just playing golf with a buddy and didn't think cameras were on. Now, I know that maybe Conor, who's, buddy with Brianna Wu, is not necessarily used to hanging out with like regular dudes. That's how dudes talk. In fact, where I'm from, the women talk worse. I used to bartend. It would make you blush, some of the shit the old ladies in there would say, right?
Oh God,
like that's the shit people say.
Hang out with nurses.
Right, exactly.
You want to hear some crazy shit?
Nurses, yes.
Hang out with female nurses.
Yep. So his claim is because he basically said that, and then that's what E. John Carroll accused him of. Then clearly he did it. But think of the insanity of the logic to that. E. John Carroll didn't make her claim until after the Access Hollywood tape had broken. So in effect, what Conor's saying is, if I could find some sort of Discord chat, X exchange, video that Conor has done, where he makes any off-color joke, and he says something to the effect like this: I've been known to slip a mick in a chick's drink once or twice. And then some chick, for political reasons, 5 years down the road, hears that and says, I don't like him. I'm going to accuse him of doing that to me. Conor would have to say, well, I'm guilty. And you'd say, well, not necessarily, because maybe that girl heard you say that and was like, I'll make up an accusation that fits in with that. No, Conor says no. And I'm like, you can't see the insanity of this. You can't see how, like, just declaring him guilty, we didn't even get a chance because he's spurging out. By the end of it, he's spurging out. He's yelling
obviously
these slurs.
He got both of you banned.
Right. And like, so it's like, I don't even get a chance to get a word in edgewise. And I understand because I've been ribbing him for a lot. I haven't talked to him much, but like when he opines about shit, I let him be remembered that he works for Progressive Victory PAC. So I think he had a lot in his chest and he wanted to get off, and that's fine. I don't mind any of that. But it's
that gets under his skin. But it's like, dude,
he had it coming.
Here's the problem with Progressive Victory. Okay, he got paid by Progressive Victory, and he said that he didn't do canvassing.
Well, he did. He admitted it now. So I don't know if
right, but he said before. Hold on,
maybe he did.
He said before that he had not done canvassing. Okay, so here's the deal. There was only two things that Progressive Victory was doing with streamers. A, they were doing canvassing, and he was on their payroll. Okay, so either A, he lied about it continuously, or B, he was doing the other thing. The other thing they were doing, which we know that they were doing, is that they were having meetings on how to appeal to conservatives. Which means... He admits to doing. Right, which he admits to doing. So let's he lied about that, but here's the problem. What he was doing for Progressive Victory was he was in meetings with people on how to get Progressive Victory, which I want to look at something real quick, right? Because I feel like this is really important, because when people hear Progressive Victory, they just think like, oh, lefties, right? Like, let's go to progressivevictory.com, right?
I've been there. I've read this. Yes.
Okay. And we go to their about section and we go, our mission. So here's the mission statement of Progressive Victory. Progressive Victory is committed to building our community of new to activism volunteers by empowering members to develop the skills and gain the knowledge needed to become lifelong activists. Progressive Victory's unifying mission is to ensure progressive candidates are elected to positions of power and progressive policy is implemented. So he's helping leftists achieve progressive policies that are further left than the Democratic Party. Over the long term, Progressive Victory aims to create a progressive power block within the Democratic Party that is too big to ignore. So he's not just taking money from the left, all right, because he's against Trump. He's taking money to help leftists achieve the goal of making the Democratic Party more socialist, and to ensure that both Republicans are defeated and that the Democratic Party stops supporting any level of capitalism, stops supporting, Medicare for all, larger welfare state. Like this idea that you can pretend to be a conservative that was just trying to stop Trump from getting elected whilst taking money from an institution that is designed to not only let the left win, because you can make that argument. Look, I really don't like Trump. I think he's a threat.
Totally agree.
I want like someone like Biden who was seen or sold as, even though he wasn't, as center left candidate, et cetera. Right. you're taking money and helping and aiding an organization that's goal is to push this country further left than the Democratic Party.
And I bring that up every time I talk to him about it. I'm like, they were doing two things. I can stomach you saying, I fucking hate Trump. I'm a real, because he calls himself a conservative, a Burkean conservative. The antithesis of that would be these progressives, right? That would be the antithesis.
Right.
So how could you get paid by? I have no problem with someone. I don't give a fuck. You call yourself Republican. He calls
it's
himself
kind of Burkean conservatism strategy for the Democrats, right? It's slowly pushing the Democrats, further left. I mean,
right.
It's kind of Burkean conservative. But it's that strategy, just not for conservatism.
Right. So I don't mind. You can call yourself whatever ideology. You could be an ANCAP. And you could say, I fucking hate Trump. Conservative, Christian conservative, fiscal conservative, Tea Party conservative, whatever. You could say, I hate Trump. I'm not going to I don't think you're an immoral person. I don't think you're a sellout. I don't think you're a grifter. You have every right to do that. People make their own decisions, fine. What I took umbrage with was, how could you call yourself a conservative and then work with the group that's the antithesis of it for two things? It's not just for Trump. Mm-hmm. It's one, to win elections, including down ballot. So it's not like you're saying, hey, I'm going to vote down ballot for Republicans, but fuck Trump, I ain't voting for him, right? That's number one. And second, exactly what you just said. Their stated mission is to basically create activists to make Democrats more progressive. And that's who you're working with. That's literally and basically, when it gets down to brass tacks, you know what the answer is? Trump's evil. It's okay because Trump's evil. He's the worst.
Yeah.
We could prevent, and he's already saying.
Well, it's like I think Trump's evil. All right, I think Trump's evil. But the cool thing about being a libertarian is that you guys want me to hate Trump especially, and I can't. Because he's just not worse than the other ones.
That's right.
He's just not. You know what I mean? Fuck off.
Well, that's even for me, right?
And he's better in some ways.
Libertarian adjacent, right? But my big issue is, just as a stupid fucking redneck, is corruption. And I see how corrupt these institutions are, like USAID, the CIA, the FBI, etc. And for me, I look at that as almost this monolithic power, and that Trump represents someone that's potentially on the outside of it, so they've weaponized against him. And so I don't the left never gets this when they debate me. I would sell right now Trump going to prison for the rest of his life if it meant the directors of the FBI and all these people that engaged in the double standard went too. I don't give a fuck. I want the corruption to end. That's what I want. I'm not in it for one guy. Them, though, the way they'll bill it is all of it is justified because Trump is this unique evil. So you take this Eric Adams thing. What's going on with this Eric Adams is uniquely evil. You mean to tell me that you, Connor, who's already admitted that you think the Justice Department, the FBI was incredibly corrupt under the past 8 years, you don't think that they routinely let people off the hook when they know they have them on crimes for some quid pro quo? That's all law enforcement. That's certainly what our intel agents do. That's certainly what the FBI does. And to be and it's everything. Well, violating a court order, violating a temporary restraining order. Yep. You don't think that presidents have done shit like that all the time, or at least in the spirit of that? And so the idea that they're saying well, this is this unique evil, and then think about it. You started off by saying this, the idea of USAID. Here's an argument against Trump. How could Trump claim that he's trying to save us money while at the same time the Republicans are pushing a military budget that's blowing out the fucking budget again? Right? So that's a legitimate argument. However, the argument they're making is well, no, Trump and Elon are so uniquely corrupt that they're not allowed to look in to where all this money's going. They can't. But trust us, if it was another guy, we would let them. Of course, there's never been another guy because we constantly vote for people that continue to fund all of this bullshit. But trust us, if there was a hypothetical another guy, then we would be cool with all of these audits. They're not. Yeah, they're blatantly covering up corruption because they don't want people to know where the money's going.
Well, so here's how you know that these people are evil, and that these people that are defending USAID, and pretending that they care about corruption. Because if they cared about corruption, what they'd be talking about is the fact that Elon Musk got USAID money to have Starlink in Ukraine to utilize as a means of fighting the Russians. That we were utilizing American taxpaying dollars to support the war efforts against another nation, and that this money was designed to do that. Now, you may agree with that, you may disagree with that, right? Like you may be a pro, you could you can talk like whatever, right? Like we can have that debate set aside. But if you are genuinely concerned about USAID and his involvement, you'd be like, look, here, this motherfucker has gotten USAID money. Like this motherfucker has, SpaceX and these other things that get government grants, and I don't trust someone that is, beholden to regulation and gets money from the government and gets, to be the one that is kind of like making all of these recommendations because there's a conflict of interest there. That's a rational conversation to have about why you believe that Elon Musk, who is, like Vox Populi guy, probably shouldn't be the one in charge of Doge, even though I agree that the concept of Doge is a good idea. Right. And if you were having that argument with me, we could have that argument. But the reason you're not having that argument with me is because you don't want me to peek behind the fucking curtain.
Right.
You don't want me to actually look at USAID. You don't want me to actually look at how the CIA and the State Department and the National Intelligence and how the National Endowment for Democracy and how the Council on Foreign Relations and how Hillary Clinton's campaign, associated NGO that gets something like fucking $8 billion for like what is it, Chewbacca? I can't remember the name of it. You don't want me to talk about In-Q-Tel, the fact that the CIA has a fucking investment firm that utilize Black and Vetch to buy level 4 biolabs on the border of Russia and Ukraine. And you don't want to fucking talk about Burisma. You don't want to fucking talk about Metabiota. And you don't want to fucking talk about the fact that the founder of Metabiota was connected with Jeffrey Epstein through Ghislaine Maxwell. You don't want me to look at any of this fucking shit. Okay. You just want to say Elon crazy, Trump bad. Yeah. Because your arguments lack substance, and the substance is right there for the picking. Like that is a perfectly reasonable and easy argument to make. But the problem is that you'd actually have to showcase that you give a fuck about the fact that we use soft power to make lefty and right wing organizations and corporations rich through U.S. taxpayer to fucking fund all these coups and bullshit.
So two things.
Sorry, I know I got long winded, but we both do that.
Yeah, that's right. Two things on this. One, I debated Pisco last night, and he brought up this case of the conflict of interest. Okay, fine. One of the questions I asked him to prove to your point here, I said, okay, if he shouldn't be involved in these audits or the freezing of aid, which they're not doing, but still, if that's going to be the argument, should the judge that's halting that, if his wife makes her living from money that comes from USAID, is that a conflict of interest? What do you think his answer was? No. What if the judge himself is on an NGO and gets $200,000 a year from USAID that's just been frozen? Would him ruling on that be a conflict of interest? Well, I'm not sure. That's how you know they're full of shit. They're gonna gnash their teeth over over Musk. And then the other thing I'll say is like let me go on a bit of a tangent here for a second. Why are me
it's
and
like
you,
Paul Pelosi? You know what I mean?
Why are me or you never gonna be Tim Pool or fucking Destiny or anybody with viewership like that? Well, you've already said a lot of the reason, right? If you're sort of ideologically consistent and you're doing it because you're just saying things you believe, it'd be easy to pander, but we're really not doing it. There's other things, like I don't know how consistent you are. I'm not very consistent streaming, whatever. But there's reasons that we won't be, right?
I got other shit in my life, you know what I mean?
Right. Let's say, though, hypothetically, that objectively you could see in a crystal ball and say, Fabian would be the absolute best guy to have Tim Pool type numbers every day. The country and the culture would go in a far better direction. Right? Let's say you're able to look like crystal. The truth is that's never going to be you, right? There's going to be someone that's a Tim Pool. The same is true of someone like Trump and someone like Musk and the concept of Doge. The truth is, because our political system at this point is so fucked up and people are so entwined on both sides, Republican and Democrat, you're not going to get someone that runs for president, is able to win, that's going to be willing to do these audits. You're not. You're going to get people that aren't perfect. You're going to get narcissistic people like Trump and Elon who are independently wealthy that are not good in many ways, right? But that's the only game in town. If it was up to me, Ron Paul would be auditing the Fed today. But that's not how it happened.
Well, he might.
Well, I know, which is fucked up. He might be. But I wanted Ron Paul to win in 2008.
That's not fucked up. That'd be awesome.
Well, I mean, it's fucked up that we're at that
justice.
point. Right? We're at that point where that could happen. But I wanted him to win. Ron Paul would have been far better to accomplish this task in 2008 than Trump now. But it didn't happen because it couldn't happen because the system's so
audit the Fed.
up.
Well, I want to point out something interesting too, right? And it just goes to show you like how special Trump is in some regard. Audit the Fed has been on the RNC's platform for over 40 years. If you read the Republican National Committee's party platform, which is, this is what Republicans believe, audit the Fed has been there for decades. And they have held all three branches of government multiple times since then, okay? And they never audited the Fed. Okay, that's another part of this process that we have to recognize is like Trump can come in with a couple of people that are his own people, right? Trump, I have ideological differences with Trump, but he's also brought in some swamp creatures, right? He's absolutely brought in some swamp people. Some people bought by Israel, some people that are, the Speaker of the House is a fucking problem as far as I'm concerned, right? Like he's made a coalition with swamp creatures. But the thing is that like most Republicans are swamp creatures. Most Democrats are swamp creatures, right? Like, I recognize that we're going to have to compromise to get anything done, and I'll celebrate the victories and I'll talk shit on the failures, as they occur. That's my role, right? Like, as much as it sucks, my role is kind of to sit on the sidelines and be a constant whiny naysayer that is never happy with what's going on, because my ultimate goal is the fucking disillusionment of the state.
Right.
But at the same time, right? Like there is this, I'll tell you this. I have noticed a shift in politics that really does scare me. Okay. And the shift that I've noticed is that much of the left before this inauguration of Trump, or we'll say, election of Trump in 2024, right? Were very subversive, and that's them. Okay, whatever. They were subversive, but there was always an element of like trying to find one flaw in what you were saying and then make that the entire argument and then gaslight from that portion of the argument and use like unconnected data that like is a straw man argument. Like we've seen these tactics for years. And what I have seen since in like the last few months is I have seen a majority of left-wing people don't even do that anymore. Like they're completely just, they'll bite any bullet.
Yep.
They'll say anything. They don't subvert your own arguments and then gaslight from that position on your argument. They just say talking points. And it's like TDS has become a real thing. And the reason that terrifies me is because if you're connected to reason, rationality, A equals A, existence exists, and care about some level of logic, there's hope for you to realize the error of your ways and to learn the philosophy, come to a better place. But if you are so ideologically captured that you just scream talking points, right? Like I watched the opening statement of that soy pilled guy, right? Perfect example of that. Like he's just screaming talking points that are like contradictory and like, Project 2025 and fucking this and that. It's like there's no argument. There's no stream of connection. There's no, like they didn't reason their way to that argument. They have just swallowed the blue pill fully. And the reason that terrifies me is that like when that happens, history tells us that we have to use violence to stop those people.
Yeah,
I'm not advocating for that on YouTube.
Right.
I want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying that that's an unfortunate historical reality
to prevent from
that
happening. Right.
That like when we get to that point, history has told us time and time again that like maybe Tim Pool's right. You know what I mean? Like civil war's coming type shit. Like I don't know that it's civil war, obviously, but like we're in for a rough fucking road if people have stopped being connected to reason and kind of just believe whatever slop is told to them, even if it's completely contradictory to reality.
Well, and one of the things I've said for a long time is now we know, we're going to find out more how many of so many of these protest groups around the world and in the United States were connected to funding through our tax dollars. Like we're going to find that out. And I've said for a long time.
We'll know some of it.
Well, yeah, that's right. We'll see. But I've made the claim for a long time that if you think a group like Antifa is violent now, they're violent while they have institutional protection. And the problem is they'll get more desperate. And the same is true of just like sort of the argumentative style as well. As they're so used to having almost every institutional advantage, that as that grabs from them, they look like, just look at like just with Conor tonight. Like, it would have been unthinkable 3 years ago that he would just basically intentionally nuke his channel Mine by screaming the F slur over and over and over again. Like, that's like, it's like, what? Like, or the shit he was saying tonight, it would have been almost unimaginable 3 years ago. You know, when you see
that he would do it, like you'd think someone would, but not him.
Right. Like, or when Destiny, you know, starts spurging out after the assassination attempt. Like, they're losing their fucking mind because they've gaslit themselves to believing that Trump's this fucking unique evil and everything's going to be on the table. Everything. And it's, you know, it's troubling. Like, I only have like 10 more minutes, so I'll segue this into the Whick.
Yeah, I got to get out of here soon too.
So I'll segue this into the Whick shit. The big argument that people were having with me is that I'm not interested in talking about corruption to people that have defended it, because I think that oftentimes this is some Saul Alinsky shit as well, right? Controlling the narrative, right? And so they'll force you to condemn what they themselves celebrate, right? And so, like, take an easy example, kids in cages. Trump had kids in cages. Trump had cages. Oh my God. Condemn it. The truth is, they don't give a shit about kids in cages, but they know someone like me and you do. Yes, there are times where, like, tragically bad outcomes are necessary and you have to choose between the lesser of two evils, but we don't like that. And so we're willing to answer that because the moral part of us is like, yeah, that's heartbreaking. We don't want to see that, right? But then as soon as Biden gets in office and there's 3 times more kids in cages, they're like, fuck them kids. We don't care about these kids. They're different types of kids. We don't give a shit. And it just goes to show they never gave a shit about the kids in cages. So why, if now they start yelling about kids in cages again, why would I give a shit? I'm not going to force myself to now. It's just an attempt to control the narrative. And so with the Whick thing, I did agree to Whick's panel before Soy Pill reached out to me, right? But my strategy going on that panel was to basically make this argument. Trump put out a tweet. I don't think tweets are that important, right? And so what I want to focus on is, why are you more concerned about a mean tweet than the evidence of corruption we can see in the past 8 years? That's sort of what my argument would be. But then this Soy Pill guy reaches out to me. And he's like, well, actually, I could, I was like, can you show me evidence of you condemning corruption from Biden, from the FBI, et cetera? And he does. He puts a tweet out that's like, yeah, he condemned the corruption. I was so happy. Like, I rarely talk to my wife about politics. So it's like, oh my God, this guy reached out to me and he's actually seems good faith. He actually gives a shit about corruption.
Right.
And so I'm so excited. So I put this big post on X, was like, thank you, man. Yeah, here's my thoughts specifically on this tweet. Do you want to set up a conversation? He says, I'm going to be on Whick's channel tomorrow. I said, great. So I was supposed to be on Whick's channel and then Conor. I told my audience beforehand, I was like, if you got kids in the room, first panel should be great. It's going to be a civilized discussion. Yeah, there'll be some barbs back and forth, but that's just jesting, like, these dumb sons of bitches, whatever. But Conor, there's probably going to be profanity. And then the dude in the middle of the debate is like, by the way, I made that tweet up, like right at the beginning of it. And I admit that it pissed me off because I was disappointed. But the pride in me is like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to you then. Like, he should have waited till the end, and then I would have been like, well, what can you do? But to just be like, ha, I lied to you. Ha. I'm like, okay, I'm done talking to you. And so I tried to say, like, I'm not ham-fisted at first. I was like, either he goes or I go, which is still reasonable. But then what I ended up saying was like, I'm just going to mute him and I'll have a conversation with the rest of the people. I'm not going to listen to this guy. I'm not going to reward this.
Yeah, I saw a clip. You were going a little hard on fucking Whick, man.
Well,
you
Whick
got a little emotional.
Here's what happened though. Like, I start saying that and Whick's like, fairly to Whick as a moderator, of course, Whick could be like, hey man, I'm not going to kick him. So if you got to go, you got to go. Or whatever,
Right.
But Whick starts this, oh, you're a coward. You're a DGG orbiter that won't condemn Destiny's
okay,
fucking...
so selectively edited clip. Got it.
So that's what started it. And I was like, oh, fuck you. All you did was ride his coattails and you basically got astroturfed by Progressive Victory because you're not talented, Whick. You're not a good fucking moderator. You're not a good debater. Like, you got fucking astroturfed by Progressive Victory. Go fuck yourself. He wouldn't. The reason that I started doing that is because he spurged out and wouldn't. I'm like, now, Whick, let me explain myself. He won't let me. So fuck him. And I'm not going to sit there when it's 3 minutes of just me and him yelling over each other. Okay, I'm going to leave then. That's what happened. That's it. And
yeah, so like, I think Whick is good for what he does. And what he does is he puts on a show that limits conversation, but keeps the conversation on track so that like mid to like low IQ people can follow the conversation. I don't actually think Whick is a bad moderator or bad at putting on the show.
I disagree.
I think he can.
I'll just say real quick that to me, one of the most.
Well, this has been my experience.
Right. One of the most fundamental things of being a moderator is you can't be a good moderator and also be a participant in the debate. So the past 2 times that I've been on.
Oh no, I disagree. I disagree completely. And the reason I think you're absolutely true for collegiate debates. I think you're absolutely true for Oxford style debates. I think you're absolutely true if you want to have a high IQ debate and have a good conversation. But if you want to create an entertainment slop for people that are like 105 to 85 IQ, Whick does a great job of that, which is that he cuts your intros super short. So you can't actually make like a really good, like you can't make like a 3-pronged argument and then circle those 3 arguments together so that you have like a solid case for like what your position is. All you get out is like a bullet point talking point and then like a couple of words and then like maybe some emotional jabs. And that's all you can do on a Whick panel because you don't have like a proper intro. And then the moment the conversation starts to stray away from like talking points and gets to like, okay, let's really get into the nitty gritty on this. He interrupts, gives his opinion, and then moves the conversation.
But that's different. That's not what I'm
It's fucking infuriating if you're trying to have a real conversation. But if you're trying to create an entertainment show for people that are 85 to 105 IQ, right? Whick does an amazing job of
maybe
because it's so easy to follow and it's the blood sportsy way, and then his own audience is like, yeah, Whick, get him. Like I think Whick does a great job once you recognize that the what he's trying to do is not have a conversation about politics and not get to truth and not like heal or compromise or anything, but create an entertainment reality TV program for stupid people. But I think he does an amazing job at that.
But for me, that's not bad the way you explain it, right? That's not been my experience the past 2 times I've been on there. So this last time, obviously, because of the nature of it, it just became Whick yelling at me, spurting out. Okay, whatever. But the time before that I was on his panel, I can't remember what the specific topic was, but the panel was me. It was supposed to be Conor, but he backed out, and they brought this guy, Elder Drazi, on, who's a lefty, right?
Yeah, I've talked with him before.
Brianna Wu, Econo Boy, and then some other lefty. It was literally set the panel up to be 4-on-1 or 5-on-1 against me. Basically the Progressive Victory Pack B team.
Why?
Which is fine. And I absolutely crushed them objectively. Like Brianna just started playing Mario and she just kept saying, oh, you're talking about facts. And but yeah, fuck you, Brianna. So like it was bad.
Okay, can I just say this? How the fuck did the internet collectively forget that bitch was at the center of Gamergate? Like, I don't know who all these fucking center people are. They're like, Brianna Wu's actually pretty rational, blah, blah. Bitch, sucks. You need to apologize for the slander and bullshit that you did that started the entire like you and your ilk lying about death threats that didn't fucking occur, lying about the fact that everybody on fucking 4chan that then migrated to 8chan were all terrorists, lying about what was happening in games journalism. I'm sorry. When people bring up Brianna Wu and then they act like she's like this centrist lib, I'm like, fucking Gen Z doesn't remember Gamergate, and it's pissing me off because this person is one of the reasons why fucking Trump got elected, because she was so batshit insane. And then, are we gonna fucking forget the fact that Brianna Wu was pretending that she was a biological female and was like fucking going out there saying that anybody that said she was trans was like an evil liar and was fucking like threatening fucking lawsuits against people that said that she was trans until finally she had to admit that she was fucking trans? Like, I don't want to hear your fucking opinions on trans issues. I don't want to hear your fucking opinions on politics until you fucking apologize and do a goddamn mea culpa and say, yeah, I was a radical fucking lefty younger person. I was a fucking idiot. I was wrong. I'm sorry for the things that I did, and I'm sorry for the lies I told. I apologize for that little rant, but like, fuck Brianna Wu. Why are we freaking forgiving that bitch? Like, she didn't do all that heinous shit.
I knew that she was somehow involved in Gamergate. I didn't know the rest of that shit. I've known my experience with her has been she's a very poor debater, and she tries to come off as rational, but she's a perpetual victim. Right? And I can tell you a story about it after this. But basically, long story short, they were getting wrecked. Yeah. And they know it. Everybody knows it. And so Whick decided to jump in as the 5th debater. And so now it's me versus the moderator and 4 people, which is fine. But the only part that's aggravating, what I kept telling Whick, is I don't fucking mind if you're going to be a debater, but don't fucking abuse the moderator power then. I'm already 5-on-1. Right? Like, fuck off. Like, 5-on-1's fine for me. You got to give me a chance to talk. It's not just going to be sit here and let people just yell at me. Like, fuck that. So my experience has been he's not been the best as a moderator. He's certainly a terrible debater. And I just don't think, listen, I say this as someone, I'll fully fucking admit that I share the same flaws that Whick does in this. I don't think that I necessarily have the characteristics that make a traditional big streamer. Like, as much as I might not like Destiny, I understand the appeal. I understand why thousands of people watch him, right? I don't think I have that. I don't think Whick has that, right? And so Whick, basically gets hired by Progressive Victory, which I was fine with, and that's basically, I know I'd see Lex Friedman was constantly giving him super chats, and he was getting guests from Progressive Victory, and that was sort of buttressing his numbers somewhat. Okay. And also, the only reason I bring all this up is like, I'm not telling people not to do Wick Show. Do Wick Show. I don't give a fuck. I don't even wish Wick ill. I'm not going to do a show anymore after that exchange. And I think that Wick's fucking up as a moderator in this extent because I'm not trying to big
time. A voice in my chat and said, we indeed were getting wrecked. And I hang my head in shame to
Who
this
said
day.
that? Drazi?
Yeah, Conor Boy.
Oh, Conor Boy. Yeah, I mean, Conor Boy's all right. But, yeah, I mean, like, I just think Wick's fucking up. Right. Wick's fucking up because it's like, man, if you're getting, like, he's going to fall into the same trap as people that did these panels before that fell off, which it's just going to become an echo chamber. Like, if you do that shit enough, people on the right are eventually going to be like, you know what, I'm good. And I'm not trying to brag, but I guess I probably have, of the people on that video, probably had the most audience. And so for him to just, like, spurg out and be like, you're just fucking simping like Destiny and blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, dude, see you later if you're just going to spurg out on me. And it's like, it'll have an effect on his channel in the long run if he does that to more people. Maybe he doesn't give a shit. I don't know, but that's all it was.
When I go to a Wick panel, I know what it is. I know it's not a debate. That's the thing. It's like you have to go to a Wick panel and know that you're doing an entertainment show and that he's crafting the entertainment for left-wing idiots. And like, if you go in knowing that, it's fine. Right. But if you go in thinking you're going to have like a real debate and like substantive conversation on a Wick panel, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Yeah. I think I could have handled it better. Like the whole talking over each other. I don't know what to do in that position, to be honest. If you're supposed to, like Conor was doing that to me tonight. Like I say three words and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then I start doing it back and I'm like, well, now I look like an asshole too. So what do you do? Like, I don't know what the best strategy. I always think about,
you know what I do?
What's that?
It's actually, so what I do is, What I do is I wait, I let them spurg out, I let them finish, I write down what they're saying, okay? And then what I do is I pick out one point at least that is a rational thing that they have said. Then I come in and I go, okay, listen. And then what I do is so this is like Carl Rogers, right? Read your Carl Rogers. He's a famous psychotherapist in America, right? So the first thing I do is I establish the olive branch. And I'm like, when they're spurging out like that and they won't stop interrupting you, they won't stop freaking out. Okay, look. I understand. I get that. And I understand this point that you've made, and that's a fair point. And like we can talk about that, and then I give like one reason like why it's a fair point, or like what that is. Then what I do is, and you speak in a calming tone whilst you're agreeing with at least one thing that they're saying. Then you take up space and you you think while they're speaking, kind of dual-minded a little bit, and think about like one or two points that you want to make that like are an argument against them. And then you ratchet up the emotion as you're going. And I'm telling you, it works every fucking time. They'll let you get emotional and say they'll let you say wild shit because you brought them down and you agreed with them on a point that was rational. And don't fake it. Like, actually do be like, look, this is rational, right? Like, this is good. These other things are bullshit, but we'll get to that in a minute, right? And then you calm it, and then you take up that space, you make the argument, and then you save your like, but motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. You save that for the end after you've made like a couple of like points leading up to and supporting that. And then you can change the energy in that conversation. It especially works on panels.
So I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with my Brianna story. Okay, so I did a panel with them once where it was like, I think Destiny was on it and shit like that. Maybe not this particular panel. Regardless, she spoke first in the opening statement. And the opening statement was something to the effect of like, oh, Republicans just sent a bunch of fucking baby morons. These Republicans are so stupid, blah, 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 blah. I don't care, right? I know you feel the same way as me. That shit's like water off who gives a fuck? Like petty insults like that. But you reciprocate, or at least I do. It's like, yeah, fuck this idiot. That's it. And so I did reciprocate in a similar way. It's like, they call me stupid when, listen, dumb fucking asshole, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Then she speaks first after the opening statements, repeats the same shit. I matched the tone. We go back and forth the whole debate. Didn't give a fuck about it. I don't think she performed well. Whatever. All of a sudden, like, she goes to X and it's just like, man, she tries to play this, like, reasonable persona. Oh, I just wanted to have this civilized conversation. And this dude came in and I'm like, hey, like, if you wanted to have a civilized conversation, why did you start off with insults and name calling? You started it. Oh, look at how fragile this guy is, mad that I insulted him. No, I'm not mad. I'm merely pointing out.
It's like Not So Erudite does the same thing.
Right. Like
it's the same thing. Like they have like this like feminine mommy dom kind of thing where like so long as they're above you and they can talk shit to you but they're doing it like somewhat calmly or whatever. And then the moment you like be like the moment you like start yelling or raising your voice, they're like, whoa, where is all this coming from? You're so triggered. Like I'm trying to have a rational conversation. It's like, yeah, you're just calmly talking shit. Right. And I'm sorry that I'm a dude. And when you keep calling me names and lying about me, I call it out and call you a fuckface to your face. Right. It's like, it is an infuriating tactic that unfortunately works because so much of the left, especially in online politics, they go off of vibes. They don't go off of words. So when they have this calm air to them, they're like, that's the rational, reasonable person. And when you start yelling, they go, that's the crazy, unhinged person. And the words don't even fucking matter to them.
Unfortunately, my normal conversational tone's like yelling, so it fucks me in that sense. But anyways, to continue with this story, right? Like, so then months later, who gives a fuck? That's done. I didn't think about it. Months later, Destiny asked me on, and he didn't want to debate me. He wanted me to outline the story of like Burisma. I say, okay. Because he was going to debate Alex Jones on it. So I do, and it's not really a debate. And then it sort of blew up, and Tim Pool asked me to come on his show after this. Great. And I get this DM from Brianna. And the DM's basically like, hey, I saw your thing with Destiny, you know. What struck me was that it was a calm conversation. And I wonder why you can't do that with me. And if you would apologize to me, then I would be willing to be on panels with you again. And I was like, what's there to apologize about? Destiny didn't come in insulting me, calling me names. We had a conversation. You did come in insulting, calling names. And she's like, I can't believe you still haven't got over that. Like, same old shit, right? And she's like, but the part that sticks out that I think
it's emotional manipulation.
Right. The part
she's trying to manipulate your sense of nicety. Right. And so that she can reassert her position of authority and power over
right. So I'm like,
it's like narcissistic shit.
I was like,
which I mean, if you know the literature on narcissistic personality disorder and how closely linked it is with trans people, it wouldn't surprise you that much. But I can't really say much more than that on YouTube. Right.
So I got to be careful we're coming up with this part too, because like,
you're already banned on Twitch.
Right. I can't lose another one. But she's like, she says these are the two interesting parts. She says the reason that I'm doing this is because I'm a misogynist and I treat women like this. I'll leave that there, right? It's like, okay, sure, that's it. It's because you're a woman.
Okay, Gamergate. Yeah, shut the fuck up.
It's like, okay. But then the other thing is, she said, do you know how many times there would have been offers for you to be on panels, but I shut them down because of your behavior? And I was like, I don't.
Wait, do you have receipts of this?
Yeah. And I was just like,
that's fucking wild.
Yeah. And it's funny because Andrew Wilson used to tell me all the time, he'd be like, that like the reason you don't get invites and shit's because like all of these panels, there's like conversations that go in the background and they basically do some gatekeeping shit. And if you're going to
we all know that.
Right. Yeah. But I'm naive. I'm some fucking redneck that just comes on here because I like arguing with people. So for me, it's like, sure, I'll do a panel. I don't know those people. Yeah, no problem, whatever. And it's like little by little, you start to see it's like, oh, maybe there's more that goes on. That's one of the reasons that Andrew was like, we should start doing this show. I did the arena that you did it at least once. He's like, we should start our own fucking panel show. Fuck them. We'll just, I hated hosting it though. But yeah, that's the story. I think she's fucking garbage for multiple reasons. But the thing that strikes me the most, like there are people on the left that I think are decent debaters. Like I like talking to Pisco. Even if I think that there's unethical shit that happens and he has a crazy bad shit.
I don't think he's a good debater.
Well, you can at least get
I think it's a bad example.
Who would you say is a good debater on the left?
I mean, obviously destiny, but I mean, everyone says that, right? He's talented at debating.
I maybe started 15 minutes in. He's like, it's fucking Trump and Sean's here's just fucking covering. And this fucking guy.
I think your stream went down.
It did. That's okay. But it's coming back on. But it's like, and I'm just sitting there. I had to turn it off because it's like, even really low, like there's so many F words there. It's like, holy cow, Pisco. You're getting a bit unhinged.
Actually, Econo Boy's in my chat. Econo Boy's a good debater on the left.
Yeah, in certain things, like which is no shame. I'm not saying this to insult Econoboy, right? But there are topics I've debated Econoboy, like that aforementioned panel. He just didn't have much to say. If you're talking economics or something, I think he's much better. But I'm the same way. Like if you get me debating, like, I'm not really a philosophy debater. I think I'm serviceable. There are people, me and you, I think, have a skill set that would allow us to be competent debaters on any subject because we sort of understand our worldview and we're just naturally inquisitive people that could follow a conversation. So you could listen, like, I could sit in a conversation between two people talking about a topic that I have no fucking clue about, like what's the best engine to put in your four-wheeler, and at some point I'd have something that I could add, even though I know dick all about that. A lot of people don't have that. They're only... in their wheelhouse, they could be good. But then outside of that wheelhouse, it's just like, I can't even remotely follow the conversation. And so I think that there are people that are competent throughout many different categories. But then there are people that are only good at specific ones. So, one of the, and I'm sure, I don't know if you saw this, I know Casimir did, one of the most frustrating things I did was moderate the debate between Dave Smith and Andrew Wilson. And Dave.
Yeah, I reacted to that much later. God, that fucking burned me.
But
as a libertarian, that was hard to fucking watch because Dave was getting so bad on it.
But the problem is Dave's a libertarian in the same sense that I am, where I'm basically like, I just want very limited government. Stay the fuck out of my life, right? That's it. Dave's very surface level. Dave's not read the literature. Dave doesn't have a strong understanding of like non-aggression principles.
Yeah, but he's pretended to.
That might be.
But
he got dog walked because I know enough about debate to know this. Like, you could look at debates that you've seen. What would a debate between a Christian nationalist and a libertarian look like? Well, the starting point of that debate is going to be discussing where does your sense of morality or right and wrong come from.
Yeah, it's going to be your axioms.
That's going to be right
because we have too much in common.
Right. That's going to be where the conversation needs to start. And so that's basically the first question Andrew asked. And Dave's like, what are you talking about? And as a moderator, I'm like, holy fuck, here we go. Because Andrew correctly is like, this is sort of a precursor for the rest of the debate. And Dave's like, I didn't even know this was a debate. I just want to move on and talk shit on Fauci. And as a moderator, how long do I let that go? Because part of me's like, dude, you got to take your fucking pill, take your medicine here, Dave. But at the other point, you have to look out for the audience and be like, was there any way that we could move this forward? Because it's clear that Dave's like, I don't even begin to know where to respond.
Yeah, I'm still mad about that to the point where like I'm really looking for like one of these fucking Christ-pilled fucking people to debate them on libertarianism as like
debate Andrew.
I mean, if Andrew will fucking do it, I'll debate Andrew. You have Jay Dyer and like what's the other one? Jim Bob and him. You have a lot of these like Christian ortho bro people that are constantly spouting this bullshit lie that like libertarianism is inherently left-wing, lefty bullshit, poisoning the well towards their own audience. And it's really getting me. It's like, it's starting to get to me. Cause like, it's like, I like Andrew. I've been, I've done a lot with Andrew. I'm good friends with Andrew, but it's like, dude, you've talked to Casimir enough to know that libertarianism is not fucking inherently left-wing, right? Yeah. Like, that what you're saying is not fucking true, dude. Like, you're appealing to a larger audience of people, and that's fine. Like, I get that you're appealing to people, and maybe your concept of libertarian is like what you mean, like you're talking about Reason or Cato or like, like the libertarians that normal people interact with, right? They don't interact with me and Liquid Zulu and Mentis Wave and right. Hardcore ANCAP people, right? They're typically like running into Reason TV or like that Ayla bitch that he just did whatever podcast
right.
with, who's like, Reason did a whole fucking puff piece on her. And I remember like when that happened, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Since when do we support whores? Like, what are you talking about? Like, just because it's non-aggressive and I don't want, the government to put a gun in her face doesn't mean I support whores. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are you pretending like she's a good person because she documented her fucking gangbang? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But like, yeah, it's starting to get to me. But like, Jay Dyer pussied out. He's a fucking little let me not say an F slur and get the YouTube.
Get me banned too.
But
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like get a banned again in the same day. But like, no, like dude, like put out a call to competent libertarians, and a bunch of us were like, hey, Liquid Zulu, Casimir, me, like here's a list of like, people that you can debate. And then he found like some brag lefty, like DC belt, like non-ANCAP libertarian, not even a minarchist, like God, guns and gungeon gays, bro. And then like I was like, dude, this is bullshit. Like this isn't a real libertarian, you know it. And then he was like, how dare you accuse me of that? And then blocked me because it's like he's a pussy that won't fucking answer the call. I've talked to Jim Bob once or twice, but like he does, you know what I mean? But like he still pops in every now and then. I'm getting sick of these fucking ortho bro tradcon right people acting like we're lefties. Like fuck off. I'm more right wing than you are, bitch.
You're hard. It's not even that you're good, right? I do think you're a good debater, but that's not the reason I'm about to say what I'm about to say. You're hard to debate, right? Because it's easy to talk about things that you could see in front of your face right now. It's very hard, right, to think about the way where do you get what are your axioms on life? Where do you get your core values? It's difficult. The average person doesn't do that on a daily basis. And it is an exercise in really having to dig down and to think about this shit. And it becomes difficult for a lot of people to engage in those debates. So it's, to many people, going to be somewhat laborious. Now, the difference between me debating you, which I've done probably more than Jim, Bob, and Andrew and them, versus them, is that they claim to operate within that scope, where it's all about sort of this, our axioms, blah, blah, blah. I'm claiming to...
They claim to be philosophy bros.
That's right. I'm claiming to be some dude that's like, what the fuck's up with Burisma? Right? Like, fuck these corrupt assholes.
Stacey Pacey says, sorry you got nuked.
Who said that?
Stacey Pacey said, hi, Rob, sorry you got nuked.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, it was just a super chat. I don't want to ignore
super
chats.
No problem. But yeah, so I get why people, it's easy to be, like, dude, it's easy to be the big talker. It's easy, right? But when brass tacks comes down and you got to put work in where it's like not just, the old Steven Crowder, not just sitting there arguing with some college kid. Now you got to argue with someone that's going to push you. Well, you're not so gung-ho to answer that calling, right?
Yeah, I wish I was a little dumber, man. I'd fucking be a lot more successful.
Right? And I think I get a lot of that too. Like I don't understand.
I think you do too. Yeah.
I like Sean. I do like Sean, actual justice warrior. Right? He goes on and debates Pisco on Modern Day Debate. I'm not trying to.
Yeah, it's like Sean, fucking stick to your wheelhouse in criminal justice. Like he fucking wrecks everybody in criminal justice.
Right, he's great.
As soon as he gets out of that wheelhouse, out of like crime and criminal, like once he gets out of the wheelhouse of crime and crime statistics, like he's overconfident. He thinks he's better than he is. Well, he doesn't prep the way that he should prep. It shows.
It's striking me because James from Modern Day Debates, I thought I had a pretty good working relationship with him. I just stopped getting calls from him like 2 years ago. And it's like, so they do this shit and it's like, not even, and like to an extent, like, again, this is going to sound really arrogant, so I'm going to try.
I think I got blackballed by Modern Day Debates because I had a debate with what was it, like the science lad guy? I can't remember his fucking name.
Jangles.
But I had it.
Oh, he's a fucking
weird. Yeah, Jangles. And I just fucking like from the outset, from the intro, because I did my prep. I had like 6 pages of notes and it was on queer theory. And he thought he was debating like another Republican about like, oh, rainbow flags in classrooms bad. And I was bringing up like Halperin and I was bringing up,
same situation I had with him.
And I was bringing up like the Thinking Sex from Gail Rubin and like specifically discussing like an identity without an essence and like where this comes from and where it's rooted in Frankfurt School. And he just kept screaming conspiracy theorists and like had nothing, and he got utterly demolished, right? And then like one of the guys from Modern Day Debates was like, man, we gotta get you a better debate, man, like blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, like let's go. I was like, I'll take one. And he's like, well, how do you? And then they DM'd me like a couple days later and they were like, did you like did something happen between you and Vaush? Because like we tried to set up a debate with you and Vaush and he unequivocally will not go anywhere near you and like was like screaming, like really mad about it. And then I DM'd Modern Day Debates multiple times after that and was left on red multiple times.
Yeah,
they just left me on red. And I was just like, dude, really? Like Vaush is fucking the problem here? Like what? Yeah. Like I don't know what their deal is. They just refuse to do anything with me anymore.
Yeah, I felt, which is fine. It's the right. I'm not upset about it. Hey, man, your show, do what you want. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like, really, Vaush was the problem here? Like, who gives a fuck?
Look at him like, you don't think I would have been a good fit? Because I think not only am I a competent debater, but who gives a fuck about that if you're the host of the show? You just want someone that'll be entertaining. Well, I think I'm a good bad guy, particularly with the left. I think when you bring me on, the left love to hate me. I think I'm pretty funny and entertaining while I'm doing debates. It's like, but whatever. Vaush, here's a funny Vaush story real quick, right? Like, he was running for me for debate. I'll say that. I don't say that about many people, but I will say he was running for me to debate. And I know this because a moderator of a channel that we're both familiar with told me that they reached out to Vaush and he said he didn't know if he would do it. So I told that moderator to tell him to set a timer and I would give Vaush 2 minutes to my every 1 minute of speaking. I was like, I'm fine with that. Right. And he could pick the topic of his choosing. That was my agreement. And he was like, So one time Andrew Wilson's then doing interview or something with Vaush and they take super chats at the end and Andrew reads them. And someone's like, why are you running from Rob Noor? And he's like, Rob Noor, I don't know who that is, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then later in that same show, they took call-ins and I was the first call-in and Andrew's like, Rob Noor. And he goes, oh shit. But he didn't know who I was. You know, it didn't know. So I don't give a shit. Like, the thing is, like, here's something that, similar to what I just said to you. Here's the deal, right? What's a big lefty streamer's, right, incentive to talk to someone like me and you? Like, we're not going to bring an audience for them.
It's like, if you don't bring in an audience, especially an audience that they can capture, then, like, all you're doing is they risk losing some of their audience.
Right.
I don't have the clout to make more of their own audience show up, right? Because if I had more clout, then like people would be like, ooh, this is gonna be a good one. I gotta show up, right? So I'm just there to like fucking poach your audience. And you're going to fucking lose. I mean, like, Vaush is a great example. I think the reason Vaush didn't want to talk to me, I don't know, because he never, answered my DMs or anything, and apparently has a hate boner for me. And I've only ever been on, like, one panel with him, and he tried to paint me as, like, pro-corporation, and that's why I should support the war in Ukraine and in Palestine, because Lockheed Martin's getting money, and a real ANCAP would be excited for Lockheed Martin to get money. And I kept having to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not what ANCAP is, right? And like, and like, he's debated ANCAPs before, and I've called him out, and I called him out on that panel, and I think that might be why he was mad. Because I was like, dude, you've never debated an ANCAP. The only ANCAP you've ever debated was your friend who is a leftist who pretended to be an ANCAP, and then you pretended to convert him completely from ANCAP into an anarcho-syndicalist leftist in one hour conversation. And he was like, that never fucking happened, blah, blah, blah. And then like the moderator, I think it was like Dylan Burns, like moved on from there or whatever. And then like, I think now that I'm talking through it, that's why he has a fucking hate boner for me, because like I proved that he's a pussy that won't fucking debate an ANCAP that's competent.
Well, and I think that it's not an admission when they don't want to debate you. It's not an admission that they think you would win. It's an admission that I know this will be difficult and it's not worth the energy to put into it. That's as charitable as I can be with it. So like a lot of the times when Destiny wouldn't want to debate me on something, it's just he knows it's going to be a huge amount of effort for him to try to get ready for that. And then what am I bringing? 100 viewers to his 10,000? Now, if it was someone that he thought was difficult, like Ben Shapiro, he would debate Ben Shapiro because Ben Shapiro has a very large audience, and so it would be more worth it. So it's sort of like,
well, I mean, I think there's also something too with like Destiny, right? Like Destiny's never done a one-on-one with me. I've been on panels with him before, right? Now I've tried to debate him before in the past. I don't really care now that he's like so fucking off the deep end that it's just like, ugh, right? But like when he was a little bit more fucking, normal in the space, I wouldn't say rational, but more normal. I've tried to debate him before, and like on panels, he would get super frustrated because I'd bring it down to philosophy. And like from Destiny's perspective, it's like, why the fuck am I going to bring this guy on that is going to talk about fucking philosophy? I'm going to lose 2,000 viewers, like, because he's like talking about like argumentation ethics or like some, existence, like we're talking about shit that's boring. My people want to see retards get made fun of or watch some hot girl that can't speak. You know what I mean? It's like he knows the game.
That's the problem with booking you or booking Casimir. It doesn't matter what the topic is. You're going to talk about ANCAP shit. But that's not bad.
That's not true.
Well,
I get forced into it. I do Prime Guys like every week, and like I don't talk about ANCAP shit, and then someone's like, "Wait, what?" And then like they force me to, and they're like, "The fucking ANCAP, ANCAP again." It's like you made me go there.
Prime's probably doing different types of panels than I was. Most of the time, I'm doing shit that's in the realm of politics. So because you're so tuned in to what your axioms are, of course that's what you're going to talk. How could you possibly have a conversation about, say, tariff policy without getting into where your beliefs come from? How could you do that? Right? And the problem is, people will be like, if I would bring you and Casimir on, that's going to dominate the whole conversation. It doesn't matter who's on the left. That's what, and so as a show host, you have to strategically plan out like, okay, a panel's a panel, but as a one-on-one debate, I get why people, I get why people, do that. But the last thing I'll say, I'm telling my audience to go over to your channel because I do have to go. I was up until 5 in the morning.
Don't tell them to go to my audience. I mean, I appreciate it, but like I'll be back tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do like a real show that we actually play down. But the last thing I wanted to say is, like, as much as we just said that about people on the left, here's the dirty truth that people don't want to talk about. I don't talk about this much, but this is true. You know, that's true on the right as well. People that largely agree with you don't want to bring you on because they're afraid you'll siphon their viewers too. It's absolutely true.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it's
happened to me multiple times.
For me, it's like, I'm not going to bullshit you. If all of a sudden my channel blows up and I have 5,000 people watching every day and I'm making $400,000 a year, I'm going to spend that money like a fucking madman. I am. I'm going to buy an RV, and me and my wife and my son are traveling. I'll probably stream less even because I'll be off having fun. That's the truth, but I'm a fucking capitalist. I'll take your money. I'm arrogant. I want people to watch me. But at the end of the day, this is a hobby for me. And I've never looked at it as like this zero-sum game where it's like, well, I got to step on someone like Aircraft Sparky to make sure he can't get a leg up because he has similar political beliefs than me, and I don't want people to watch him instead of me. I don't give a fuck about it.
That's happened to me in libertarian spaces. Like,
right.
Not necessarily Dave Smith, but like, what's his name? Clint Russell. Right? Like,
okay. Yeah,
I had Clint Russell on my show. And then I was critical of the LP because they did an anti-war rally with communists. And I was like, dude, look, you can talk to communists, but doing a fucking rally with communists will stab us in the back. It's going to be a fucking problem. It's going to be Fed infiltrators. Like, there's going to be issues, right? So then he brought me on his show, and then he like ambushed me on his show about like why I was like dumb for that or whatever. And then like I turned it around on him and like, made a rational argument, and then he had to like go. And then we had this great show, and we talked about psychology and philosophy and a bunch of other stuff. And then like he was like wouldn't answer my DMs or anything after that. Right. Like he was real quiet. And then like Gaza, October 7th, thing popped off. And then like he was just saying the exact same shit that all the big libertarians were saying, which was all the leftist talking points. And I was like, yeah, I get it. The Nakba is important, but like we have to talk about what happened with the Nakba. Like why are you saying like, the lefty talking points about the Israel situation instead of being a libertarian and being like, hey, what we need to do is we need to think about property rights. We need to bring in courts that can determine whether or not property in the West Bank belongs to a Muslim or belongs to a Jew, like who actually owns this property, and adjudicate that. Like that's the libertarian solution, is giving people their property back. Like why are you just parroting lefty shit? Why are you not talking about like you're fawning over the PLO despite them being a bunch of fucking commies and like a big problem? Like what's going on? And then like all of them blocked me. Like Angela McCardo blocked me with it. Redhead Libertarian blocked me. Clint Russell blocked me. Like they all refute. Like they're like, no. I've had this guy on before. He makes a lot of sense and he makes me look bad. I'm going to do everything I can to push him down because like we're the people that Tim Pool talks to. We're the libertarians that Tim Pool talks to. We're the libertarians that get to be at the LP. We're the people that like have the audience and the clout. And it's like, so like I'm never going to be on Tim Pool. And I'm never going to be on Tim Pool because I know you've dropped my name there before. I know Andrew's dropped my name there before, right? And I'm sure my name got brought up around one of the libertarians. And I guarantee you, Clint Russell or Redheaded Libertarian or all these other people that actively and completely hate me because I fucking made them look dumb once on Twitter, and because like I guarantee you that's why I've never gotten a call and I've been ignored. Because I know 2 different people have dropped my name to talk to me, and yet I'm right, and I know that I've been left on red.
Yeah, I talked
by
about
bookers.
you behind the scenes.
So it's like,
because they were asking
okay.
about different types of ideologies. And I was like, you guys bring on ANCAPs? I was like, my friend Fabian Liberty, I think he'd be great. And I also know how to sell people, right? Because I'm like, I think he'd be entertaining. I'm not just like, oh, he's a good arguer. I was like, I think your audience would really like him. I think it would be a spirited conversation. You would dig it. And he's able to be kind of funny and talk about a litany of things. I said the same about Andrew Wilson, which they brought Andrew on. This is, I got to go after this, but you know what's ironic is I'm smart enough to know this, right? I got in good with all Tim's producers, so I hung out with them all day and shit. Because I'm thinking, if you're good with them, the chances of you getting back on the show. Now, I wasn't being disingenuous. I actually enjoyed hanging out with them. Tim kind of was off doing his own thing, but I did the morning show, stuck around all day, did the evening show. Unfortunately, I think most of those producers got the axe. So, like, I was messaging, like, hey, you should bring me on for this, to do this debate, whatever. And I get no response. And then someone told me, like, yeah, Tim basically axed all of his producers and shit. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's
a
like,
bunch of them were lazy and not doing shit, apparently.
But like Piers Morgan, I'd love to be on. Andrew was on there debating Cenk Uygur. My goodness, would I smoke Cenk Uygur, right? Like, because like Andrew,
that's not even a high bar.
I know, but it would be so much fun to be on Piers Morgan's show and just go. Like, I was so excited. Andrew told me he was debating him, and one of the things that was going to come up was the January 6th pardons. And I sent Andrew like 40 fucking tweets of Cenk just being like, oh, fucking bunker boy Trump. He had to run and hide in a bunker. It's like, oh, when the left was rioting outside the White House, Cenk thought it was hilarious that Trump had to run. But now it's fucking crocodile tears after January 6th, you know. Hammer this motherfucker. I always wanted to debate Mehdi Hasan. I would love to smack around that. Did you see what he tweeted out there?
No, I know he's always saying some silly shit.
This is a great one. He's
about Hamas or something.
He's getting unfairly smeared, but it couldn't happen to a nicer person. He tweeted out, "Make plane crashes great again." And everyone's like, you fucking terrorist, 9/11. So he had to delete the tweet because everyone's like, he's calling for attacks on the towers again. When really he's just
he's talking about the fact that Trump was like fuck DEI, and then immediately we started having plane crashes.
Right.
So the left thinks that that's like DEI's fault.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier with like, where the fuck is your logic?
Yep.
Right. You think that Trump getting rid of DEI programs has affected pilots training and hiring that takes years, and that's already starting plane crashes, and that like without DEI we have more plane crashes because we're more focused on merit? Like, in what fucking retard world are you living in? And that's why people aren't understanding Mehdi Hasan's tweet, because he's expecting you to understand a talking point that doesn't connect with reality in any way, shape, or form.
And it's funny, though.
That's why nobody's getting it.
It couldn't happen to a nicer guy, though. But it's like, yeah.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, yeah.
2 days into Trump's inauguration, you know, it's like egg prices. It's like, oh, go fuck yourself. Like, you know what you're doing. This is such disingenuous
keep
bullshit.
your DMs open. Keep your DMs open. I want to do another presentation soon. I like doing them, and it was really fun when you were with me.
Yeah.
I did a Heroes of Capitalism on James Cash Penny not too long ago, and I think I might do another one. So maybe in like the next couple weeks or something, I might put together another presentation on like a great man from the Gilded Age that is like unfairly misaligned and like only half of their story is told, and why we need to be proud of like the great capitalists of the turn of the century and tell their story with their flaws for sure, but you know, the full story of it. And I'd love to like have you on for something. I would love to.
I think I was going to say, that was one of my favorite streams I ever did, talking about McCarthy. So Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays work best for me, but I'll keep my DMs open. Thank you for inviting me on tonight too. I really appreciate it.
We'll do like a Thursday in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Sounds
or something.
good. All right, man. You take it easy.
All right, brother.
We'll see you. It's fun. I always enjoy talking to Fabian. All right, I got to wrap up. I'm for reals done. I'm not coming back tonight. I'm so tired, and I should have been. I told my wife I'd be up here in half an hour. It's been an hour and a half, so I'm gonna get yelled at. But Fabian's cool. Please, I'll put that link one more time to his channel. Check it out. ANCAP might not be your cup of tea, but I think Fabian's an interesting guy, and he seems like one of the good people that like do this. It's not a total fucking insane psychopath like me. So I think it's worth talking to him. Sorry, I'm a little low energy and a little tired here, but I do have to get some sleep. The last thing I'll say is, like, again, I'm not blaming Conor for nuking my channel. It seems as if Whick put out a post. I don't know if he has inside information or if he's just speculating. But he sort of put out a post that like he just went like scorched earth to intentionally nuke my channel. I didn't see it that way unless more evidence comes up. So I just want to be clear. Fuck Conor for all the reasons I said in the debate tonight. It says, you didn't do a panel for one day and you all just had to nuke yourselves and get banned. Well, let's see. Whick says, I didn't see it live, but it seems like Counter decided to use Rob North's channel, to take out Rob North's channel and some weird slow or murder-suicide thing, dirty pool. I just want to say to Whick, I haven't seen evidence that it was intentional. I think Conor was just unhinged. That's what I think. So, I'm not fucking sitting here. I'm going to take my lumps. I'm going to take my 30-day ban on Twitch. Thank you to Lecture Fan that reached out to me, said he would appeal for me. I'm not going to appeal. The slur was said multiple times. I think I said it in one time in response to him. So, I'm not going to appeal. I'll take the ban. I'll still be able to stream on YouTube. But I am not saying that I think Conor intentionally fucked my channel over. He fucked my channel over, but I don't think it was intentional, and it doesn't really bother me. EOD thinks he did it on purpose. I don't know. Maybe more evidence will come to light. I don't know. Yeah, it was counterpoints. So, but yeah, he got Conor. I don't think purported himself too well. I think he was unhinged, and on the specifics of what we were talking about most of the time, he wasn't doing particularly well. So, anyways, it is what it is. Hopefully, I'll be streaming tomorrow night. Time to be determined. But I appreciate you all. So check out Fabian Liberty's channel. Thank you so much, everyone. As always, have a good one.